Welcome to the Peachtree Podcast. Peachtree Learning Center is a nonprofit in Middle Tennessee dedicated to training and discipling students in all the fine arts to become excellent and skilled in order to spread the kingdom of God into the world of the arts. On this podcast, we will discuss topics designed to encourage, uplift, educate, and equip people to proclaim the kingdom more deeply in their own families and communities. In this space.
Absolutely. And God does that.
Yes,
God
He does.
definitely does that. So, and I am happy now. Like I said earlier, there are no regrets.
No?
And I'm happy that I teach.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy that I can share everything that I received when I was in the student chair.
Right.
And now I can give these things back. And I can see how much that will help folks more than I ever realized.
Well, being a great player doesn't ensure that you're a great teacher, but I've watched you teach, obviously, close up to home and also here, and it's been great to watch how you can explain things and impart things, which is that's a gift. That's a gift. It's a teaching gift. So you definitely have that, and I've watched that kind of flower here at Peachtree too. I mean, I've seen you teach in a different environment as well, but it's really great to watch people who come into class a little bit nervous or not sure what to expect. There's a college teacher on campus. Oh no, I'm not going to be great in my class. And you're really good with putting people at ease and finding where they are and meeting them there and then bringing them forward. So that's obviously what God had planned all along at some point for you to do, was to add teaching into your experience. But you have a degree in, didn't you get a master's in?
Yes, I got my bachelor's in commercial music with emphasis in guitar. And then I got my master's in church music. With emphasis in guitar as well, but I was majoring in composition and arranging in that establishment. Yes, so I got my master's, both actually, even in college. When I was majoring in guitar, my emphasis was the instrument, but I was specializing in arranging and composition. And I had some great teachers there.
And then as a dad, as parents, you and Kathy have a son, James, and he shows a pretty early propensity towards playing his guitar.
Yes.
That was an early thing, and so you
Yes.
started teaching him when he was how old?
Well, James started, I attempted to teach him, maybe he was too young. I probably started him too young. But then a few months later, something just clicked, and the propensity came up, surfaced to where it was almost like as natural as taking the next breath to him.
It's just a talent that he has as well.
He is incredibly comfortable, effortless with the
He does make
instrument.
it look easy.
Yes.
With pretty much any genre you want him to play in. But I love watching him in a jazz setting, and just letting him go to town on an improv solo is pretty phenomenal to watch.
It is.
It's exciting. But you never tried to talk him out of that or anything. You tried to.
Never.
You saw that gift in him and said, oh no, this is something you need to explore.
Absolutely. I never had any moments where I wanted him not to be in this field. As a matter of fact, I had to talk him out of practicing. Hey,
Wow.
You need to do your schoolwork there, boy. Come on, let's stop playing. It's been 6 hours already.
Wow.
Sometimes you would spend that much time practicing.
I'm sure that's true. But that was was that a little bit later? I mean, that wasn't when he was 6 or 7. That was probably when he was.
No, that was when he started classical seriously at the age of 8. And then things started to escalate. By the time he turned 10, he already played intermediate pieces very well.
Right.
And then I took him to this record store, the Greatscape in downtown Nashville. And there were 2 albums that he wanted me to buy for him. And it was called I Can See Your House From Here with John Scofield and Pat Metheny. And that album was a life changer for him.
Wow.
And that's when he started to get a real deep interest in jazz music and try to know how improvisation works and all of the mechanics of it. So
did he learn a lot of that from you? Did you find him other teachers along the way?
Yes, he learned some initially. He learned from me the concept of how improvisation really happens in the brain. And then I finally realized, he probably needs to see other teachers. And he studied with Mr. Paul Abrams from Belmont and Stan Lassiter and Shane Roberts, great teachers and players in the Nashville area. Mm-hmm. That's when they were more in depth with jazz than I am, and they were specialized in it. So each teacher had a different style. So and James went from one to the other, and then he did his own self-study. He studied a lot of records and albums without even being told.
Right. Well, at some point he took it in his teeth and ran with it.
And he still does it.
He does.
To this point, he's not done.
Wow. That's also fantastic to watch. Part of the reason I wanted to talk to you is because I wanted to hear your perspective as a student growing up, knowing you wanted to do music, and maybe having to fight for that a little bit, and then turning around and being a parent in that environment and seeing that in your child and saying, oh, you know what, we need to feed that. That's something that's important. And it's been a God-given gift, and we need to help him steward that as a child of the kingdom, because God's purpose in giving people those gifts is so they will spread the kingdom. And one of the things we are assured of in heaven is that there will be music.
Absolutely.
And so I think when, as parents, it's very easy to buy into the mindset of creative pursuits are not going to provide for my child the way I might wish them to be provided for. I want them to have a secure life or a stable life, when really God is calling us to see those creative gifts and help them steward them for his purposes, regardless of what the financial gain might look like. Because honestly, if they're following him, he's not going to let them starve. He tells us that perfectly plainly in Scripture. And I know at our house, it's been really amazing to watch, just trying to be obedient in that, and I guess the word is timidly walking that out when we had young children, and then realizing later on that God was bringing things to them that we had no idea even existed when they started studying. Especially our older daughter started studying her violin. Seriously, we had no idea where that was going to go. And then it didn't take her to college. It took her to a deeper study with people outside of the college setting, a traditional college setting. It's definitely college level stuff. But she didn't end up with a 4-year degree per se, but she's one of the best violinists around, I think. That's a mom speaking, I know. But she's really, really good at what she does. But she's worked very hard. And yet I know that was something that God put in her young. And we kind of tried to sort that out. We had a certain set of expectations. And so we had to lay all those down. And that's a very hard thing to do. And I know you've walked that road. I know that as a child, probably everybody didn't look at you and go, oh, your guitar is going to be the way you get to make a living. But you persevered and kept feeling like God was pulling you back into that. You mentioned before that you'd even tried to get out of music at some point, and then it just never would go away, because that was obviously his calling on your life.
Yes.
And then he's used you in such mighty ways to make your own music, which is fantastic to hear. You have great. I think I have all your CDs. They're all amazing to hear. I love to put them on. And you can find those at different. Where can people find your CDs? Actually, are they on your website?
CDs are
going away. I know. I know. I'm a dinosaur.
Away, but people are still making them because there's something about making the CDs. You want to have a CD, a solid product in your hand.
Is your music on Spotify and those places?
Music, there's a complicated story behind that. They used to be on sale as CD Baby, and then the sales of CDs started to drop, and then I needed to have them out there in digital format. And the financial implications on that were not very favorable.
So you're saying what I have is a relic that's going to be worth a lot of money someday.
Well, I think I might have been thinking about actually putting the CDs back out.
You should.
And because sometimes I get asked that question.
There's some great music on those, and I know God used you in that way too.
Yes,
but also to turn around and pass that on to your son, and then watch him as he has children. He's got 4 now, and they're all at some level already listening, studying, hearing music, because it's just a gifting in that family. And so carrying that on is also an important thing. Like once you have that gift, to be able to just pass along the stewardship ideas, a pretty powerful thing to do, especially knowing that it's going to be weaponized if you're able to train up the child in the way you should go, and you steward that heart as well, and you just teach them that is a gift that they're responsible for using.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's like bearing your gift. It's not a real good things in the eyes of God if you take your talent and you bury it.
That's
you know
exactly right.
About
we know where
parable.
that goes. Yes.
You know exactly the one who brought the rewards and reaped the benefits, and the one who didn't.
Right.
And I know that God expects us to not be lazy.
Right.
If you have talent, you must practice.
Yes.
You must spend time with your instrument. This is how you give back to God. God gives you the talent, and if you do not practice, if you do not spend time cultivating that talent, you are burying your talent.
Right.
And I will boldly say that here in the air. So, and also the time that you will spend taking your message out through your instrument, playing and sharing your skill. And people love to see you play. People love to see how great you are in your instrument. And people expect greatness when you go out and perform. It doesn't matter if the audience never touched an instrument before. It does not matter if the audience doesn't even know how the guitar or a violin or a piano works. But the audience, in my view, can't tell if you are great or if you're good or if you are just there barely making it. And I will say, too, that sometimes they'll pat you on the back and they'll say, yeah, good job. There's a difference between that. And when the audience goes and says, man, that was great.
Right. There's another component of that, too, I think. When we first started at our home requiring piano lessons, and we did require piano lessons at age 6 for our children, it was more about teaching them the discipline aspect. And it was also, I really wanted to create good consumers. I wanted them to know what good music was versus junky music or slap happy or lazy music. I wanted them to see the difference. So part of that in my mind was teaching them what good music looked like and sounded like, and getting them to try to practice so that they would know how hard it was. So then when they went and heard somebody play a piano concerto, they could say, oh, I've played and I know that that's not easy. And just respecting someone else's effort. In that way, I felt like, and I had no idea at that point that they were either one going to be in music, but I just wanted that for them, partly because of the brain development issues, and that's a whole other topic we could get into, the brain development side of music. But beyond that, I wanted them to just be good consumers. I wanted them to know that when they heard, saw, watched good music in a musical or in a show or at a concert, that they would know the difference between good and bad, which is, I think, a huge task for parents to teach children on every level what's good versus what's not so great. Of course, in my house, that ended up being the beginning of something much bigger, and I had no idea. But that was how we started. And I do believe even children who don't necessarily have this huge gifting or calling on their lives, it's important for them to understand that music is a very powerful tool, and that imbibing it and taking it in requires discernment. And they should be able to appreciate good versus just flashy. There's a lot of music and certainly entertainment that's just flashy, and it's not of substance. And I wanted, as parents, we need to think about teaching our children how to find things of substance.
Yeah, the pyrotechnics of music is very distracting nowadays. The dresses and the outfits and the lights and the drum beat, which is the
the lyrics.
The lyrics, of course. Let's not forget the lyrics. Absolutely, yes, the lyrics and everything that goes that is visual, and even the messages that we've been hearing. And this is why I think musical education should be implemented vigorously in every school, in the public school, the non-public school. And I think the work that you're doing here at this establishment, Peachtree Learning Center, is, I've seen and I've heard through the walls what's being taught here. It's wonderful. And I'm not talking even about music, talking about other subjects, just very good material that's being taught here. And I like the fact that musical education is very strongly encouraged and taught here.
Yes, that was part of the mission, I think, in the very beginning. Shoni came and spoke on an earlier podcast and talked about the seeds that she took to plant this and what she felt like God had planted, had given her the vision for, given her and her husband Steve the vision for in the beginning. And it started very small, and it started in a separate spot kind of out of town, and then it had 2 different spots for a while, and then I think it ended up here in this space while there was still a church meeting here, and then the church, when it left this space, gave her, basically authorized and blessed her to go forth and make this a whole thing. So it started small and has grown, but it was from the beginning a place that she wanted to be. She felt like God wanted to be just a kingdom representation of people from all faith walks coming together to make art and music and dance and drama in a way that was honoring to the Lord, and also teaching young people's hearts how to be in those spaces and redeem the arts. That was the original calling. So it's the mission statement on the website. It's how it's always been, and we're blessed to be in a building that where we actually have 2 lots here in the middle of town, in an older part of town, and yet on the deed in the courthouse it says that this whole space is dedicated to the purposes of God forever.
How about that?
So he's here, and he's in the land even under our feet. He's just in this space, and it's always been for his purposes. So that's the goal, is to train students to at least recognize that, and hopefully find the ones that have those deeper gifts and help them steward them and give them tools to expand their learning as they go. Sure. So you're a big part of that now, so we appreciate you being here.
Yeah, my mom would be very happy to know that I'm here.
Yes.
Yes, I told you, Mom, I really should have stayed in music. It worked out fine. So,
Well, thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Yes, it was my pleasure. And it's good to be a part of this, because anything that's godly, that is wholesome.
Right.
That's the word. It's good to be a part of, especially in the world we're living today.
It's harder and harder to find, so it sticks out more, which just means it shines a little brighter when you find it.
This is really a great place.
Yeah, it's a very sweet spot.
Yes, it is.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for driving in early. I'm going to let you go so you can get ready for your first class, but thanks for coming out early and talking to us.
It was my pleasure.
I appreciate it. You have a great day.
It's good to be with you.
Thanks again for joining us on this episode, and we'll hope to see you back here again soon. Thank you so much for joining us today. To support this podcast, please go follow us on your podcast platform of choice. And if you're interested in knowing more about the work of Peachtree, please go visit our website at peachtreelearningcenter.com for more information.